Hi, good morning. Today is June 19th, 2025, and it's about 9:44 a.m. Central Time here in Katy, Texas. My name is Rinaldo Aguiar, and I'm making this quick video part of the rapid fire tips for law enforcement series that I'm working on. And so I just have a couple of quick things that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I haven't. So the first one is all these observations are here in the hyper local space in Katy, Texas. The goal being, as I mentioned in the video yesterday, to kind of give ammunition, right, to potential agencies that might at some point investigate this and prosecute the people responsible for this operation, to give them legal ammunition, right, things that they can actually use to bring Diosdado Cabello and others to justice, right? That's why I'm now concentrating on the legal scope of things and in the local scope of things. Now, I think one person that carries a lot of liability in all this is Harold Martinez, obviously, because as I mentioned yesterday, I did mention it briefly. I didn't go into much detail, but it is clear to me that he and Mansour were working together, right? Both are of Iranian origins, like their parents are Iranian, or I don't know. They both speak Arabic, and they both smoke hookah, and they have all these commonalities, right? And they both try to harm me physically, and working together as an ensemble with their female companions. So it's a team, right? It's a pair of couples basically acting together. And this is a well-known technique at this point. I know that's how they operate, right? There's always a woman that is in reality working with a man behind the scenes, directing her and telling her what to do and what to say. But anyhow, so this is observation. And I'm saying this because I think, right, there might be recordings of this, and it could be maybe possible for law enforcement to find those recordings. And if that's the case, it could be, legally speaking, it could be like a nuclear weapon, right, for law enforcement. So this is the observation, right? I'm not going to hypothesize. I'm just going to say what happened. I don't know, maybe around year 2017 or 2016, like somewhere around there. So maybe, yeah, probably 2016, 2017, probably. Around that time, my former partner went to a trip to Disneyland, okay? And she would make these little trips. That is a long trip because from Texas to Florida is a 4 hour flight. But besides that trip, over the years, she did a series of small trips, things like going to Austin or going to Dallas. It was usually with her son, and I was never invited to those trips, right? And that was fine because I was busy basically fighting off Travis Kalanick, who was harassing me constantly and attacking my websites. So I was very busy with work. I could have not gone to those trips. But anyhow, one of those trips was this trip to Disneyland, right? So what's curious about this is that Harold Martinez went on that trip, and my former partner's sister, somebody by the name of Jenny, who supposedly, this was the story that was presented to me, was the girlfriend of Harold Martinez. So Harold Martinez and the sister of my former partner were a couple, right? That's what was presented to me. And so they went, the three of them, to Disney World or Disneyland in Orlando, okay? And they took my former partner's son with them. So it was 4 people in this trip. And the story that was told to me is that they flew in a very economy airline, and they stayed in this hotel that was horrible because it was so low cost that it was really horrible and scary. When I heard the story about the hotel, I felt happy to not have gone to the trip. So of how horrible it was. The hotel, now, knowing what I know today, right? Knowing that Harold Martinez is an agent, right? Not only of the Venezuelans, but probably of the Iranians and the Chinese as well. He must have a lot of money. And I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would think that the thing about staying in the cheap hotel was probably made up, right? Like they probably stayed in a high-end hotel. Of course, they didn't tell me that. I'm just guessing here. Anyhow, so the story goes that these 3 adults and a child went to Disney World or Disneyland. I don't recall. It was a trip like of 3 days. And then they came back and I was here because at this point in my life, I was traveling back and forth to New York. But when they came back, I happened to be here and I saw them arrive with the little hats and from the parks and everything, all sunburned and tired, the 3 adults and the child. So that's what I saw. Okay. Now it occurs to me that maybe the story wasn't really the way it was presented to me. Maybe there was another adult in that trip. And if that's the case, the real story could go in different ways, but I'm not going to speculate. I think the important thing is that if authorities ever see this video and they decide to investigate this, if you decide that it's appropriate to look into those or to try to find those recordings, because I know that these parks, for security reasons, they keep these recordings forever because there could be any sorts of people in those parks. There could be terrorists, there could be child molesters, there could be anything, right? And they have to keep that to protect themselves from liability. So it is possible that those recordings will exist. And it would be pretty easy to find, right? If I was an investigator investigating this, I would probably look for the dates by finding the flights that my former partner took from Houston to Florida. There's only one of those trips in the last 10 years. And then with the dates, I would look at the parks, the cameras, try to find where they went, where they ate, the restaurant, and it would be visible exactly what were the dynamics really in that trip. So that could potentially be revealing. And if it turns out to be the case that the story wasn't exactly as it was presented, it could become a crucial piece of evidence, not against these people, but against Diosdado Cabello, who is at the end the person orchestrating all this, that orchestrated all this for the last 10 years. That's one tip. The second tip is about a person called Dirlai Castillo. It's spelled D-I-R-L as in Lima, A-Y. That's the first name. And last name is Castillo, C-A-S-T-I-L-L-O. Side note, Castillo is a prominent marketer, at least here in Katy. Like a lot of key agents that have been engaging in industrial espionage against my company have the last name Castillo. And yes, this is a very common name in Spanish, but that all these people close to me are called Castillo. It's just not, it's not random. And then when I inquire, right, like, why is that all of you, so many, and then they will say that they're cousins, like second-degree cousins, or so, like they will come up with some explanation why they're also called Castillo. So I don't know. Or it could also be an implementation of the familiar names pattern based on the fact that Francisco Castillo has the last name Castillo, and I've known him for 40 years. Maybe they picked up on that and then started naming the agents Castillo. That could also be the explanation. So maybe it's not a pattern, but not one pattern, but the other. So that's what I'm trying to say. Now, she's very important. I believe she was Penelope's handler. The reason I say that, and this is silly on their part, right? I've seen this many times. And the observation is that when they want to do something like change something, so say that they want to implement a new procedure to do something to me or to steal something in some way, or to do something that they need to do that is important, what they will do is that they will call the agent that is going to do the action to a meeting. They had this is an in-person meeting always. Like they don't do this over the phone, or it's always in person. So in the case of Penelope, they would do things. So Dirlai Castillo, so Dirlai would say, "Oh, let's go for a picnic," right? And then she would invite 10 people to the picnic, all women. And then they would go to this picnic. Of course, I wasn't invited to the picnic because it was only women. And then after the picnic, the next day, I started noticing changes. Like Penelope will change the place where we were wrong. And she would come up with these ideas of, okay, why don't we now run in this particular school instead of running in the park? And that was, I started picking up on it and realized through the years that it was just a way to adapt, to tell her how to adapt to make the surveillance more effective. Because what happened with the parks in this particular example was that when I saw that they were intercepting me at the corners, and I described this in the demo that I gave on January 2025, my reaction was to start avoiding the interceptions, right? And that's what led to all this, because by avoiding the interceptions, I forced them to be more persistent. And by being more persistent, they revealed the technique. That's how I understood, how the radio frequency eavesdropping functions. That's how I understood that they had the Garmin watch, my Garmin watch bugged, my iPhone bugged. That's how I captured the geo index even, by avoiding them, because when I avoided them, they had to change tactics. And in that change, that brought exposure to their tactics, to me. So anyhow, as I was adapting, right, then Delay would create these meetings with Penelope to change the tactics as well. And then the next day, Penelope will tell me, I think I want to do speed training. Why don't we go running on a track in a school? And I was like, okay. But I saw the consistency of this pattern, that every time I changed my tactics, Delay would create some sort of a meeting, or the other excuse was that Penelope had to give her some medication that she was taking. I don't know. So it was a constant thing, right? And I also saw it with the Great Wolf Lodge, right? After that visit to the Great Wolf Lodge in March, a lot of things started changing in my house, like the position of things, and new objects started appearing in the house, the ball in the backyard, new devices, a new computer, new phone, and new tablet, all these changes, right? The manga books came to the house 2 days after the Great Wolf Lodge visit. So it's the same, right? Like it's a meeting in person and then a change in tactics that it's observable to me. So that's how I know that Delay Castillo was the handler. And she's posted on the website. I reported Delay to the IRS, and I met with her in person. In one occasion, she took me to Delay, right? Invited me to go walking, like hiking in a park called Brazos. It's 45 minutes away from here. And yeah, like I'm pretty sure. Okay, there's a good one. Yesterday, I created a video. I posted it. I created the video yesterday. I recorded it last evening. So that was on the 18th of June, but I only posted it online on YouTube today. So that's the video that I posted today. It was recorded really yesterday on the 18th, okay? In that video, I made a mention about the house in front of me, 26711 Valley Side Drive, Katy, Texas, 77104, 77494. And I mentioned that house, I believe it's a South Typhoon house, and I made some references about that house. I recorded the video, but I started editing the video, right? Like, 'cause sometimes I cut little pieces that are redundant in the video. I started editing, but I didn't finish because it was a long video, and I went to bed early and I didn't post it, okay? But what's curious is that after I finished recording the video, the people from that house, it's a Chinese woman, maybe 5'11", maybe 120 pounds, I would say early 30s, late 30s maybe. She, the husband, and an older lady, probably in her 60s or 70s, and a little child, a little girl dressed in white, which I know is a marker, right? And this has been discussed before many times. They came out of the house, but what caught my attention is that the Chinese woman, the female agent, she was facing my house and showing her face, which is very rare. To give an idea, that person, that family supposedly has lived in that house for at least 6 years at this point. I've only seen her face 2 times in 6 years. Like every time she's out, the only thing I can see is the back of her neck. Like she always positions herself in a way that the only thing that's visible is the back of her neck, never the face, in 6 years. And yesterday, after I recorded that video, less than 20 minutes later, she comes out showing her face, and they all got in the car, the 5 of them, and with the little kid dressed in white, which is a marker, and they left. The other thing that was strange is that in that house, there were 3 vehicles, and I have the plates in the system and everything, but there's a white Tesla, which is the one I believe has the strongest surveillance and communications equipment installed. And I know that because Penelope Suarez, every time we came on this area, she was always looking visually for that car. Like I saw that she was like looking out to locate that specific vehicle. So I know that's the vehicle that has the surveillance. And they have a gray sedan and a white SUV, very large, like a Tahoe or similar. I have the plates and the details and everything. But anyhow, when they all got in the car, the 2 adults, the older woman, and the 2 kids, the 5 people, right? When all got in the car, the white Tesla wasn't there. It was missing. It wasn't in the garage. So that brought to me the question: if the 2 adults are in this sedan, who drove out the white Tesla? It occurs to me that maybe they took the Tesla, or somebody took the Tesla to, I'm guessing, some repair shop or something to remove the equipment, because I made the mention about the house specifically, and they know that I sent that open letter to the people of Ukraine yesterday, which is it's probably a big move. And I should say why I did that yesterday specifically. It's because the previous day I went to Lake Point Estates and I saw a few things that led me so that I saw them retreating in a way. I'm not a military strategist or anything, and I know nothing about the military world. I played some chess when I was younger. I wasn't particularly good at it. But one thing I know from chess is that when you see your opponent retreating, you have to attack, right? You have to move forward. So that's what I did yesterday. I started moving forward, and I will continue moving forward. The whole sequence with the Chinese agent of 26711 seemed like the timing of it, right? It seemed like either an extraction protocol or that they were sending a signal to the other, right? Telling to them there's danger, right? There's danger in this situation right now. And that I'm saying that right now, not because of the act itself, because they do this every time they see danger, right? I'm saying this because it shows that they're listening to what I'm saying here in my house, because I hadn't posted the video yet. I posted the video today, January 19th, about, I don't know, I think it was like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. But all this happened yesterday in the evening, like at, I don't know, 6:30, 7 p.m. So the only way that they could have known that I had mentioned their house and that there was immediate danger in this area for them and for the other agents is if they have this house blocked and they're listening to what I say here, even right now, real time. So that's what I'm mentioning, right? Because it could be another data point that could establish criminal liability to the agents specifically. And then by turning those agents, law enforcement might get to the big fish, right? Okay, on the same note as the lie, there's another agent. His name is Eldrick Kankis. And Carla Paula Baola Benavides is his wife. Both are prominent agents, and they work with Penelope Suarez. And Eldrick Kankis was tagged with the tag 7, as in the Venezuelan intelligence, long time ago, more than a year. Even before I captured the GeoIndex, he was tagged. So that's another good data point. And I also reported him to the IRS, and his phone number and everything is noted in the website in the evidence page. Okay, so I'm going to cut this one at this point, and I'll see you the next time. Thank you so much.